This is the third episode of the tech that we've shot this week, but it's the only one that you're going to see. I'm terribly sorry. Yeah, we actually shot this 3 times, and I've been having technical difficulties with our capture card. So, you know, if you ever watch those YouTube videos where they start off by saying, like, I hope it works this time?
It didn't.
Well, it's going to work this time.
Third time's the charm.
Right, this is going to be a good one because I had a nice sandwich, and now I'm having a nice beer, and you're loaded up on sugar, right?
I have had some donuts, so I'm wired. Wow.
Well, maybe we can go through this fast and pack in all kinds of interesting information. So, Rooster, our good friend Coked Up Canary, tweeted this picture here, and I'm pretty sure that's Kane right there. What the hell is he doing hanging? It's right there. Kane has been working out.
Man, he has really been working out. That is crazy.
I had no idea he was going to be in this movie with Schwarzenegger right there. he's back up for Schwarzenegger. that is exactly him. Like the hair and everything. It's kind of creepy.
What happened? I don't even understand. Is Terminator still a thing? That doesn't even whatever.
No, this isn't Terminator. This is some other movie he's in. There's going to be another Terminator though. Yeah, Terminators just won't die, you know. In more Twitter news, Timmy Tech TV has invited us to go to Spain with him because in Spain there's this thing here. Let me show you. Let me open up here. Look, I've got 2 tabs of the same thing open because I'm that efficient. There's a Star Trek theme park that's going in at Paramount's Park America. That's right. America. Right there in the middle of Spain. So
fried potatoes.
are you looking forward to this? Do you think we should go to Spain?
I really like the idea of a Star Trek theme, Star Trek theme park or Star Trek themed park, or I'm not sure there's a distinction there. But unfortunately, it looks like from the concept artwork, this may be the Star Trek universe that has been poisoned by J.J. Abrams.
Poison, those are some strong words. We're going to have other people in the comments that say, hey, it's not been that poison, but I totally agree, you know. My favorite ride is actually a ride where you go in and they spray paint you green, and then they throw you in a ring, and Captain Kirk comes out and beats the hell out of you. It's the best ride ever.
It's a little known fact that ride is actually remanufactured industrial dryers. They just put you in the dryer and put it on high, and you just...
While you're wearing, and you're actually wearing like VR goggles while you're doing it, and Captain Kirk is like,
look around. Is there anything you can fashion a rudimentary lathe from?
Oh, wait, that's the wrong movie. Let's move right along here. Okay, Steve Jobs, right? Does it feel weird doing this the third time? I don't even know. Steve Jobs statue made by an artist. So they wanted to put up a monument to Steve Jobs, and they had a bunch of people making different monuments. And so this is a mock-up of a smaller model that's going to be scaled up, and it's absolutely hideous. It's terrible.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, and there is a certain artistic aesthetic to that. I'm really surprised Apple didn't go for something that's more like clean lines and like the Apple aesthetic that they've had since pretty much like the G3 Cube. That said, this is very organic. This is very human. So that maybe is what they're going for. You know, rumor has it that Jonathan Ive called the sculptor and was like, I really like this. I can't believe it, blah, blah, blah. But it's a very sort of organic, sort of gritty, dirty sculpture, in my opinion. And it doesn't fit with Apple's personality, in my opinion.
Well, you know, they did say that, or he did say that he liked the imperfections because that was more like Steve Jobs. But I don't know. You said beauty's in the eye of the beholder, but what if it puts your eye out? Then what?
A friend of mine, I was trying to articulate my problem with Apple, and a friend of mine articulated it for me really well. He said that you know, with the Unix Foundation, you know, OS 10 is really nice, and it's you know, it's really fun to play with and things like that. So it's almost like, you know, you're in one of those cults with Steve Jobs, and he's handing you this yummy, delicious Kool-Aid, but he's got his thumb in it.
You know, my favorite monument, they had a monument that was just a stick with a butthole on the end of it, and that's the one that I thought they were going to go with, but I guess that the alternative is this. So anyway, moving on, let's talk about MtGox.
Oh, no. What's that? It's gone. What is it?
It's absolutely gone. MtGox is gone. So to fill you guys in, MtGox was the biggest Bitcoin trading website out there. I kind of stayed away from MtGox, and the reason being because it was always in the news, and there was always stuff going on, and there was a lot of stuff surrounding it, and I was like, this gets a lot of attention. It gets a lot of weird attention. It's been shut down for, you know, random things. I'm going to go to a different trading website. And what does MtGox stand for, Wendell? I always forget.
Magic the Gathering Online Exchange.
That's just what people call it, right? That's not really what it stands for, right?
No, no, that's really it was founded as a Magic the Gathering, card trading thing. Rumor, I mean, it's not rumor. I mean, everybody on the inside, MtGox has been in decline for 2 years. I have an account there, friends have an account there. I think collectively we lost like $4, because the writing was on the wall with MtGox for the better part of the last 2 years. The surprising thing is that their announcement says that they lost $500 million of Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's 850,000 Bitcoins. And their CEO came out today and said it's gone. He doesn't know where it is. It's gone. So
that's really disturbing because
yeah.
It should still be there.
Well, you know what else is really interesting about all this? The resiliency of the Bitcoin. I thought it was going to take more of a dive than it actually did, but it's actually holding up. I'm sure there's a lot of people who lost a lot of money on MtGox that are pretty angry, but it's still holding up. Let's take a little bit of a deeper look here at Bitcoin. Did you know that 927 people own half of all the Bitcoins?
That seems disproportionately high.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. And if you take a closer look at this, 47 people own 28.9% of all the Bitcoins. That's really crazy. Here's the breakdown here in actual U.S. dollar amounts. 47 people are worth about 10 million. And then we've got 1 million individuals over here who own 20% of it, and they're worth almost nothing. So most people that own Bitcoin are worth about nothing. And, some people are calling conspiracy or this is a Ponzi scheme or whatever. I don't think it's like that. If you look at the actual distribution of wealth, it's probably better here with Bitcoin. Like the distribution of wealth is probably more evenly balanced with Bitcoin. I'm not saying it's a good thing. In fact, I think it's probably a bad thing that it's not balanced correctly, but it's more balanced than the U.S. dollar. I mean, it really is. Yeah,
for the U.S. economy, I really would have to agree with that. And I think the world economy is like the top 5% own 98%. So maybe
yeah, it's something like that. I mean, you could basically just translate into that to like the Sam Walton family or his family owns everything and everyone else is out of luck. So sorry. Yeah. All right. Other Bitcoin stuff we've got to talk about right here. Senator Joe Manchin. There he is, Mr. Manchin himself. Yeah, got that Manchin. I don't know where that came from. We didn't do that in the other videos.
Let me sum up his message real quick. It is, I don't understand Bitcoin. It should be regulated probably or illegal. I don't know. Let's get rid of it.
So he wrote a letter to several different financial institutions, including the Federal Reserve, the Treasury, and federal financial regulatory agencies. And he's saying that Bitcoin is extremely dangerous, and he wrote this letter. It's right here. You can read the letter. And what's interesting about the letter is if you go through his entire letter and you replace the word Bitcoin with the term cash, the letter still is 100% accurate because you can still buy guns with cash. You can still buy drugs with cash. I don't know. What's the big deal here? Why is he so scared of something that can be used for good and bad? He doesn't mention anything good. He keeps Bitcoin in this area that's like, black hat, gray hat type thing where it can only be used for bad ideas and for bad things and for, sins and breaking the law and that sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, you can do the same thing with cash. I don't see the difference, really.
Wendell. If Bitcoin were really well implemented, we could have frictionless transactions that are very secure to replace bank cards or credit cards or whatever, and it would remove sort of the credit card middleman. And so I'm not sure if he's playing an angle from sponsors or what, but it seems really weird that he would come out as like, oh my gosh, cryptocurrency, we should be scared to death of this. It needs to be regulated or illegal, and we don't even understand it, but we're going to regulate it. So it's
hold on there. You just mentioned that there may be something going on with his sponsors, right?
Yeah, let's take a look.
So we go over here to opensecrets.org, and this is a fun website, just for your own personal fun. If you wanted to go over there and just type in anybody you want, any senator, any legislator, anybody, just type them in, press enter, and you'll get a nice list here of all the people that contribute to them. So you can see here, First Energy Corp, he's from West Virginia. Of course, that's a coal company. They're going to give him tons of money. But right here on his list, we have J.P. Morgan Chase. Not very high up on the list, but they've still given him, a substantial amount of money. As much money as a lot of you guys make in a year, or a lot of people make in a year. Yeah. I think the last few years I've made less than what J.P. Morgan Chase gave him.
Yeah.
Fewer dollars in my pocket. So what does this tell you, Wendell?
I think that this is pretty revealing. I mean, you always have to wonder what their motivation is, and I Bitcoin is not inherently evil. It's what you do with it. Not to mention, I mean, HSBC Bank with the whole like cash drug regulate, like that thing, that is a scandal and a half, and no one's in jail for that. There was nothing really, not a big deal. It's
There's
like 20% of profits for a year or a couple of weeks profits, depending on how you want to look at it. I mean,
it was really more of a just like, hey guys, stop it, please, come on. We found you. We know you're doing it. You guys should like.
Can you do it a little bit more secretly next time?
Yeah. we see you. Hey, stop that. We see you. Get back into those.
And those were all cash transactions, so
yeah.
Laundering large amounts of cash. I mean, those guys were like, no, don't bring duffel bags of cash in. Here, the teller windows are this big. Bring it in boxes that are this big. And it's like, what?
Take a look at our sponsor, Squarespace. And I want to say thanks to Squarespace because I've been getting a lot of email feedback from you guys, and I've received no negative feedback thus far, so that's really cool. And everything looks good, so we're going to continue to work with Squarespace. I like what they do. They give you guys all the tools you need to build your website, and it's all about putting the content first. So let's go ahead and just take a quick tour here of some of the new features. Now, they've added shops, so there now is e-commerce. You can go on here and create your own shop. You just come in and it's really easy. You pick your template and then just fill it with your content, and you don't have to really worry about getting too into it unless you really want to. If you want to get into it, you can. Stuff for photographers, bloggers, artists, pretty much everything you need, restaurants. I want to show you this one, musicians, because with musicians, it'll integrate right into Bandcamp. So you can either sell your stuff right on here, or you can just have your Bandcamp playlist, similar to this. Let me go ahead and click on music. Have your Bandcamp playlist embedded right here. And whenever you're ready to buy, click buy and it takes you over to Bandcamp. Again, you guys have a ton of templates to start with, and I want to mention that these are just starting points. You can take them, fill them in with content, leave them as is, or you can get really nerdy with it. There's lots of editors. They've added this logo editor where you can go in and create your own logos. That stands for big time stuff. And here's what I really wanted to mention, Developer Center. A lot of you guys are going to love this. You guys have full control over the back end. Get access, everything you need to come in and really take control of those templates. All the features here listed, you guys can see them. And there's even a mobile app. So they're really doing a lot of different things. Last but not least, workshops. Just giving you guys some pointers, some help with your website. If you guys want to learn, you can come here and do that. If you guys want to save a little bit of money when you guys sign up for Squarespace, just click on the screen and be sure to enter the code TechSyndicate2. That's for the month of February. We'll be using TechSyndicate 2, and after February, it'll likely be TechSyndicate 3. Squarespace knows that we have a lot of developers and a lot of talented designers in our audience, so they told us to pass this along. They're hiring, and they're hiring in New York City. They're down in Soho. What they're going to do is, they'll take a look at your resume and some of your, samples, and if they like it, they'll fly you up there so you can experience New York City. Now, they're down in Soho, so I would recommend looking out for Kane. He could be anywhere in that part of town. Also, you're right there in Chinatown. A lot of fun. You guys can go buy an awesome jacket like the ones I have. I happen to buy mine down there. Anyway, if you're looking for a really awesome job in a cool part of town, be sure to check out beapartofit.squarespace.com, and you guys might be on your way to New York for a really awesome job interview, and that's going to be going on until the middle of March, so best of luck. And now back to the tech. You sexy beasts.
Wendell, have you seen the time?
Oh no, it's Rant 30.
It is so Rant 30. It's been Rant 30 3 times, but this time is going to be the best. Check this out. So, GH, I've already messed it up. GCHQ is a British, it's like the British NSA, right?
Yep.
So they've been doing this very interesting thing where they're monitoring everyone on Yahoo, and they're doing it by monitoring their webcam chats. There's like the Yahoo Chat. I don't even know because I'm not a member, but there are millions of members, and they're collecting everything. They've all got this massive hoarding mentality. They just have to collect and keep everything. So every 5 minutes they take a picture. And first off, that's very much like, what the hell are they doing? Why are they doing that? There's no real reason to be just spying on random people on Yahoo Chat. Why would they do such a thing? And then the other thing that's weird is they're working with the NSA. So they're spying on American citizens as well as citizens in other places, and then they're working together with the NSA. Why do they need this data? What's the purpose of this data? Now, this all came out thanks to more of the Snowden documents. I mean, as people go through stuff, they're finding more and more things. So this has been going on for quite a while because Snowden's been holed up for quite a while. So it was obviously going on before, he disappeared. But
so these are private chats between individuals that were solely on the Yahoo platform, chatting with one another, A to B. Not in all cases, but most cases.
I looked. I looked up some statistics here, and I found out that Yahoo Chat is the #1 resource used by terrorists worldwide to communicate. Did you know that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's really. I mean. So they've just hoovered up, if you've got a chat, there's JPEGs every 5 minutes of your chat that you had with grandma or whatever on YouTube, and it's in a database now apparently. And this was all done without Yahoo's knowledge. This whole this metadata thing that we heard about, and metadata is not really a big deal, and blah blah blah. They were sniffing internet links between A and B. So this was done without Yahoo's knowledge, without any oversight of any kind. And it is now in a database somewhere, and it goes back years apparently.
You know what's funny? I love reading all the different notes that came out of this. Here's a note that was in some of their notes. There's notes in notes. Unfortunately, there are issues with undesirable images within the data. It would appear that a surprising number of people use webcam conversations to show intimate parts of their body to other persons.
And it goes on to talk about how analysts using the system are sort of appalled at just the sheer amount of porn, and it's not like the good kind of porn. It's like average ordinary people porn, which is probably horrifying. I don't know. I'm just imagining things. I've gone off a cliff now. I don't even know. But it talks about how the language they use makes me think that they're laying out a plan to actually hire programmers to write programs to sift through the data to try to categorize the difference between faces and porn, so that they can keep the faces but discard the porn. Because they actually say it's well, we tried a computer algorithm, but it was naive because it was classifying the flesh tones of faces as porn, and we really just want to collect the faces. And it's holy crap! Yeah. Do you guys not realize this is 1984? Why are you guys? Why in the UK have you not grabbed your torches and pitchforks? Why?
It's hey, wrong head. No. Oh God, it's just not working out. So it's interesting. Bruce Schneier wrote a little article about this, and it's all about it's a mental disorder. They've hired a bunch of people who are the type of people who live in those hoarding houses. If you guys have seen those hoarding shows on television where people just have boxes and boxes on top of it, and there's a million cats running around on the floor. Well, they hired those people, and they gave them an indiscriminate amount of money and just said, hey, go have fun and hoard the entire world. We love hoarding things. Oh, my God. That's exactly what's happened here. And so Bruce Schneier has kind of pointed out one interesting thing that they've said. And if you guys, there's a whole bunch of interesting things in this article, but one of the most interesting things in this interesting article is that they have said that, listen, hey, we're not collecting data technically because robots are absorbing all the data. And since the robots are the ones actually collecting the data, it's not technically collected by a human being until a human being looks at it. So what we're doing is we're getting all these things. They're all just in cases, and they're all going to be there. So in case Bob down the street does something wrong, we'll have everything he's ever done, every picture that ever happened on Yahoo. It'll all be there so we can go into it, and maybe if we need to construct some sort of elaborate thing against Bob, we'll have all this stuff right here, and then we'll have reason to go back and look at it, and therefore it's not illegal because it's not actually collection unless a human looks at it. That's perfectly sound logic in my opinion. What do you think, Wendell?
That it's not collection unless a human looks at it is the most absurd thing. I mean, so by that logic, if a robot kills you in the forest and no one no one hears that, it never really happened. Is that what we're saying? I mean, is that really what we're saying?
That's pretty much exactly what we're saying right here.
It doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, I don't understand how anybody that has half a brain in their head doesn't see how this system will be wildly abused by whoever controls it. I mean, political rivals to stifle speech. You get in a situation where this system is used to target an individual, and it's let's say that somebody is saying something that's making people uncomfortable. I mean, who knows? Maybe our audience gets upset enough, and then blah blah blah. They use the database to dig up dirt. Maybe they find a thing where I video chatted with my girlfriend wherever, and they're like, we're going to leak this on the internet if you don't shut up. It's that actually has happened. That's in the Snowden leaks. That's come out as one of the strategies is to try to destroy the credibility of people that are involved with movements or the Occupy people and that sort of thing. And so this apparatus has already been abused and therefore should be dismantled, because at this point in human history, no one should be trusted with that.
Well, guess who has a plan to dismantle it?
Bruce Schneier.
Yes, our main man, Bruce Schneier, right there he is. They should just hire him on as a consultant because I believe he would improve the security, not only of America, but he would improve the security of America, but he would improve the privacy of citizens of the world.
I was going to say it's too bad we as citizenry can't organize and put him in a position of power where he could oversee these sorts of things. And then I think to myself, isn't that the very definition of government?
Wait a minute. I wonder if he wants to run for office. Bruce Schneier?
We need a parallel government that is against the other government or that somehow keeps it on track or something.
I better edit all this out or else there are going to be people like I don't want to see like... I really don't want to wake up in the morning and have helicopters and people like, never mind. So anyway, let's talk about this article here from Bruce Schneier now. One of the things I want to talk about first is he sort of broke down exactly what the NSA does, and he broke it down into 3 categories. And he said it's very important not to lump everything into one category because there really are 3 distinct things that they're doing right now. And the first is not that bad, and then it gets worse as you go into the other categories. But the first is they are doing targeted surveillance, and that's what they were designed to do, and that's a good thing. They get a tip or they hear something that's going on and that doesn't sound very good. Maybe 2 guys are trying to get a bunch of chemicals on the black market, and then they target specifically that, and they do surveillance on it. They surveil it, yes. So they
what
look
you're
at that.
saying is that it's okay for them to hoover up Bin Laden's Yahoo video chat, but Grandma's Yahoo video chat should be off limits without a court order.
Right, and that's the second thing they're doing is they are hoovering up Grandma's video chat, the bulk surveillance, and that goes right back into the hoarding complex. If they could remove the hoarding complex, that would solve so many of the problems and solve so much. I mean, it would save us so much money. We wouldn't have to build ginormous billion-dollar facilities in the middle of Utah to collect every sneeze from every person across the entire world. We wouldn't need that. But they've got this freaking mental complex where they have to have everything. And I think a lot of times they sit around and they're like, but what if we miss something? I bet these guys are losing sleep thinking about the stuff that they miss. Like the times when people go underground and their cell phones are not connected.
Even here in the
like going
States,
crazy.
I mean, the McCarthyism that happened here in the States is just yesterday in our history. And can you imagine if this kind of tool and database was available during the McCarthy years? It would be absolutely insane.
The third thing they are doing is they are sabotaging security. They are trying to create, they're trying to crack algorithms that are out there to encrypt data. And so they're not improving security, they're weakening security. What they should be doing is they should be going to known good companies and known good stewards and saying, hey, we see you have a good thing here. Let us help you heighten the security so you can be impervious to break-ins or be, I guess, more secure against break-ins or hacking or that sort of thing. But they're doing the exact opposite. They lay awake at night thinking, I wonder what was in that encrypted packet. We have to break that. We have to break that encrypted packet right now. We can't let this happen.
So what you're saying is that the NSA should help companies secure their lines, and if it's like, hey, Yahoo, you aren't using any encryption on your video chat, you should totally fix that, or because we can just sniff it. Or it's like, hey, we had some scuba suits and we went under the ocean to tap into some fiber optic lines in order to listen to video chats, and we're just letting you know that maybe you ought to encrypt the stuff on the fiber optic lines because even though they're privately owned and completely yours, somebody might be listening in. And we're going to let you know. And if we need to tap Bin Laden's video chat, we're going to get you involved rather than just surreptitiously taking over your stuff.
White hat hackers, they just don't understand. Like a white hat hacker will call up somebody and be like, hey, I was on your website and I just clicked a couple things and I realized you guys have 400 just plain text passwords on your website. And I'd like to help you guys fix that for free. You know what happens to him? Just take a wild guess what happens to him. They kick his door down. Yep, and he's in jail he's in a little box. They put him in solitary confinement because they're afraid that he'll use his telekinesis to hack phones from across the room or something like that.
True story. Kevin Mitnick was in solitary because they thought he could call in a nuclear strike from a touch-tone telephone.
I'm gonna take a minute. That was a good book, except he's kind of an ass, but it was a good book anyway. Okay, you ready to move on from the NSA? I guess some of Bruce Schneier's closing statements here. He's proposed some ways to reorganize the NSA, make them, just responsible for collecting data that's targeted. Just targeted surveillance is okay. And then he said, turn over the surveillance of the citizens of the USA. Turn that back over to the FBI. That's what they've been doing forever. Just let the FBI have their homeland. They know how to do this. I mean, there haven't been any ridiculous records of them collecting all data. They typically go by standard due process, sometimes, mostly, usually, maybe. So anyway, he doesn't expect anybody to listen to him, and I don't expect anybody to listen to him. But if they did listen to him, it could fix a lot of things. And that pretty much concludes this episode of Rant 30. Are you ready for another episode of Rant 30?
The next Rant 30 Chapter 2, or Rant 30, the next generation.
All right, let's get into this. Yes, the Verizon CEO is back. We talked about Comcast, and we talked about how Comcast and Netflix and the deal, and we talked about how peering works, and we just talked about a lot of the nonsense that's going on, and we made a totally separate video on that, and you guys should go check that out. And then we also talked about our solutions, which I'm using a VPN right now that really gets around a lot of this nonsense. And then after all this stuff happens, the CEO of Verizon comes out, Lowell McAdam, and says some ridiculous things. He thinks that people that use more internet should be charged more for their usage than people that use less internet. And I mean, from a business standpoint where he is, he thinks it's completely logical. I imagine he's one of those sociopaths that wakes up in the morning and thinks that that's completely right. I don't think maybe he's not even thinking that this is evil. He's like, oh, this makes sense to me. They use it more, they should pay more. But we are going to break this down and tell you that it is complete nonsense. It's just complete nonsense. So I should take a drink of beer while you go ahead and get started here on this nonsense.
So basically, with an ISP, you pay a flat fee and you get internet access. And the people that don't really use the internet access much, because here in America we're working 80 hours, 90 hours a week. We're not home much. We don't use our home internet, but we still have it. Those are the really profitable customers for Verizon. And he's like, oh, we've got those people, and then we've got these other lazy people that are watching Netflix and pushing 200-300 gigabytes a month. We're not making as much money on those. But to be sure, we're making record profits, and we're not reinvesting our profits in any infrastructure. But we just want the profit margin of the person who never uses their internet connection to be the same as the person who uses their internet connection a lot. And this is really bad because Verizon is actually a large ISP. They actually are more so than Comcast, because Netflix and Comcast made a deal, blah, 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 and that's bad.
Well, I mean, not as far as the actual number of customers go, but the infrastructure you're talking about. They're larger as far as infrastructure goes.
Verizon has a lot of business customers compared to Comcast, and they have a lot of backhaul network. And so in terms of like being an ISP, like a real ISP, not like a consumer ISP, they are actually larger, and they do have some clout. And so now that Netflix has paid Comcast, of course Verizon has their hand out as well. And this is a really more than their hand out; they've got
their fist out.
Yeah, it's like you're going to get the fist if we don't get paid. So this is really bad for Netflix, because now Verizon customers, Netflix and Verizon are probably going to have to make a deal. But the reality here is still, even though Netflix network is huge and they do have peering arrangements with other ISPs, if their customers who are paying for general internet access want things on the internet that require transit to another provider's network, that's just Verizon's tough luck. They're going to have to pay for it. If they can't make it work, then they'll have to raise prices for the consumer, or they'll have to work a deal with those customers, or they'll have to cut back. It's like, well, we were really overselling too much when we offered you the 100 meg package. We're going to have to scale back to like 50 or 60 meg to make it all work out, because the market's not willing to tolerate a higher price. That's a normal course of business. Double dipping should not be allowed, because that creates friction within the thing, and that sort of breaks the fundamental concept of the internet.
Double dipping, this is almost like triple dipping. I'm going to read this quote here from him at the end right here. It says, "It's only natural that heavy users help contribute to the investment to keep the web healthy. It's only natural that heavy users help contribute to the investment to keep the web healthy. It's only natural that heavy users help contribute to the investment to keep the web healthy. That is the most important concept of net neutrality." What the fuck are you talking about, man? Go ahead first.
It sounds like a plausible argument. I mean, it sounds legit. It really does. But the thing you have to keep in mind is bandwidth is not really a finite resource, at least not in the traditional sense. These caps, even at 200 or 300 gigabytes, are so low that it is just comical. It is absolutely comical. And yeah, I mean, there are some people that use a ton of traffic, but you can control that with traffic shaping, or you can control that with quality of service or other things. The fact of the matter is that bandwidth is not a normal finite resource, that you can come up with an analogy that really makes sense and is really an honest analogy. It's really easy for them to come up with things that sound legitimate, and this is really more to convince the public. But let's look at it for what it really is, and that's lies, or at best misrepresentations.
You ready for this? I'm going to have a little bit of fun here, and I'm going to break down this greed. Again, it's only natural that heavy users help contribute to the investment to help keep the web healthy. 1996 Telecommunications Act, the Congress said, yes, you guys can have some huge tax breaks, money out of our pockets into their pockets to improve the infrastructure. You know what they did? They didn't improve the infrastructure, and then on top of that, they're still getting tax breaks, and they are still taking tax money to improve the infrastructure. They're making record profits on top of all of this, and you know what they're doing with those record profits? They are sitting on them. Okay, so we are paying for access to the internet. They're not just double dipping, they are triple dipping. So we pay for the access to get on the internet, and we're guaranteed, we're not guaranteed. They say you get up to like 50 megabits per second, but they can't deliver that on certain avenues because like avenues to Netflix are completely saturated, and they refuse to upgrade that because they want money from Netflix to upgrade that. So they go to Netflix and they're like, hey, listen, a lot of people are using your service. We want you to pay for the upgrades that they're paying for. We're a reseller of the internet, but they all want to go to you, so why don't you pay instead of us? Then Netflix is like, well, I guess we have to pay Comcast or somebody because the service is stuttering. And then on top of that, freaking Lowell McAdam looks at it all and says, that's not enough, must have more. And then Lowell McAdam says, the people that are watching Netflix and playing video games should fucking pay us more. That's the greed. That's it right there, the greed.
What's really, really sad is that that's basically accurate. I mean, the 96 Telecommunications Act has already funded fiber optic infrastructure to every premise in America, but that has not been realized. There is not fiber optics to every building in America, but that was basically promised by the 96 Telecommunications Act. It was like, copper's never going to work. This is, we're America. Damn it. We need, to do whatever. And copper is the way out, and we've got this wonderful fiber optic thing that we did a lot of stuff with fiber in the 80s, and it was just magical, to Jesus infrastructure. And yeah, so we're supposed to have fiber everywhere, but we don't. But not only that, there was an article that came out of Business Week that talks about how these major companies are sitting on piles and piles and piles of cash. They're not really doing anything with it. And it mentions like, well, Comcast, instead of having invested all of its cash in infrastructure, is now trying to use it to buy out Time Warner because otherwise they wouldn't have the cash. I mean, think about that. Think about how messed up that is, that they have enough cash to buy Time Warner because they haven't invested in their infrastructure. But the 96 Telecommunications Act was basically a federal mandate to take their own money and federal money that they were given in the form of tax breaks to invest in infrastructure upgrades, and they've just kept all the money. And now it's like, well, we got all this money. What are we going to do with it? I don't know. Why don't we form Megacorp that can abuse our position and charge people for access to our customers? This is exactly what's happened.
It's toilet paper. That's what they're going to start using it for. Hey, give us some more money. We already wiped our ass with the 96 Telecommunications Act. Now we'll start using money. I'm going wild tonight. So there's an incredibly ignorant article here by Robert McMillan. It says that the Comflast, the Comflast Netflix deal may not be a bad thing after all. Well, you're full of it, idiotness.
It's okay. Yes, completely. But I really feel bad for the people in Australia because Australia, what's happening here in America is sort of a precursor, I think, to what's going to happen in Australia. Because in Australia, comparatively, there's a smaller number of providers, and from what I understand, the quality of the internet there is much worse. There are some areas where you can get a really good internet connection, but with the caps and fees and latency problems and a whole bunch of other things, there's really no incentive to upgrade the infrastructure. They were going to do the national broadband thing that hasn't panned out so far. And so what is happening here will very quickly follow suit there. I think that the EU is probably a little better off, but man, I really feel for Australia because in like a year, it's going to be like, 50 gig caps, and you can't get Netflix or Hulu or anything. I mean, a lot of it you have to use a proxy now anyway, but it's going to get worse, I think, because everybody, every step of the way is going to want to cut, and it's going to affect Australia first more than here, I think, and then it's going to get really bad here.
I think everyone should go and look at this article. This is speaking of global calamities. The internet is fucked right here. It's on The Verge, and it's a very interesting article. They did a ton of research, and it covers the problem almost fully. I'm not sure if they really missed anything, but it's a long article. There's a bit too much to get into. You guys can see some of the headlines as I'm scrolling past here. But, it lays out the problem. And there's something I wanted to highlight right here before we move on. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. But you can email Tom Wheeler at fcc.gov, tom.wheeler, and then you can call him at 1-888-225-5322. That's 1-888-225-5322.
You should not call him just randomly. You should have a well-written, please consider the ramifications of what you are doing email. Do not harass him. Just, yeah.
Well, you know what you could do? You could email him and then refer him over to one of our videos so that he has a more full understanding. Maybe he doesn't get the big picture, or maybe he does and he's just been paid off, but maybe he doesn't know that we are wise to it. So, even if they're hiding something from us, if we get wise to it, it's no fun for them anymore. So just think of it that way. Anyway, this is a very good article. One of the best articles I've seen on The Verge, if not the best article I've seen on The Verge. And it's interesting that they chose to use strong language here in the title. I believe that is an attention grabber right there, and it did the trick. It grabbed my attention. I was like, damn, The Verge.
Yeah, it really is a dire situation, because the larger and more conglomerated these ISPs are, the more they're going to hold their customers hostage, and the more they'll control the internet. The internet is really best run as a trust, not an oligopoly of like 4 companies.
There's a hell of a storm in California. I just clicked on a link. Damn. Moving right along. You ready to talk about something that is truly more global and probably a lot more fun to speculate and talk about?
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that. All right. Let's talk about artificial intelligence. Let's talk about the singularity, and let's talk about the futures of computers and where we're going to be in the next 20, 30 years. So Rush Today says that Google will know you better than your intimate partner soon. And I think they may already know us better than that, because all those weird things we do on Google. There's Ray Kurzweil. I don't even know what that means. Yahoo certainly knows you better than your intimate partner if you're...
And the GCHQ, apparently.
Yeah, they do. Yeah. Here's Ray Kurzweil. Now, Ray Kurzweil is the man who he would like to live forever. He's 66 years old now, and he takes a whole, is a cacophony the right word? He takes like 60 pills a day, like smorgasbord maybe? I don't know. He takes a lot of medication to try to, fix the aging process. But he believes that the next thing for him is going to be, implanting his intelligence into a machine intelligence or into a new body. I don't know. Anyway, it's all pretty interesting stuff here. But this article goes on to say that Google may become, where's it at? Where's that headline at? The thought police. Ooh, very, very ominous. Click on our articles. We need you to read our sensational articles. But you never know. They could be the thought police, or someone else could use them as the thought police. But the basic idea here is that computers in the next 20 or 30 years, actually in 2029, they're supposed to become as smart as us. We're going to be the first species ever to create the next step in the evolutionary chain. We're going to be the ones to make something, and it's going to be smarter than us. Now, will it be conscious? I don't know. What do you think, Wendell?
Well, with AI, there's really 2 schools of thought in AI, and it's sort of, well, okay, there's more than 2, but there's sort of the Watson, Siri, Cortana, which is Microsoft's digital assistant. Yes, Halo, we know, whatever. And those types of AIs are really just natural language databases. Consciousness will never arise from something like a Watson. Watson's very intelligent, but
Watson is Wolfram Alpha.
Wolfram Alpha, yes, is another good example.
It's pretty much like an Uber Wolfram Alpha with a bit better natural speech recognition.
Yes, and you can totally go play with Wolfram Alpha right now. It's really good. You should totally go do that, just to get a feel for how it works and ask it questions and do math. And yeah, it's really good. It's really fun. But that kind of intelligence is never going to lead to consciousness, period. The other academic school of thought is abstract enough that it probably could lead to consciousness someday. But what Michio Kaku is talking about is just sort of downloading the brain into the computer, or making a sort of prosthetic that your brain can interface with more directly, and the possibilities there, which is fun to imagine.
Yeah, he's got a new book, and it's called The Future of the Mind. And in this book, there's a lot of speculation. He's a theoretical physicist, so he loves theoretical things. And I think he likes sensational things. He's a lot of fun. I mean, if you've ever seen a documentary that he was the narrator of, or he was interviewed in, he's a ton of fun, and he really gets into some mind-bending things. So his new book, The Future of the Mind, I've not read it yet, but it's like the next thing on my list of things to read. But in this interview with Jon Stewart here, there's some pretty interesting things. He's talking about Obama may have $1 billion fund to map the brain. And that's the other school of thought. It's kind of a double entendre there. I like that. It's maybe a triple entendre when you think about school. Never mind. So that's like the other school of thought there, is that they could be mapping a brain. And right now a brain is way more powerful than a computer, and it runs on about 20 watts. So I think Intel would love to get their hands on that, and so would AMD and ARM and everybody else. But it would be totally different than this massive database. It would be an actual, almost organic thing that can learn and crack jokes and communicate with you on a much more human level. And I think if we have any major breakthroughs in artificial intelligence, it will come by mapping the brain, because we identify with something that communicates the way we do, and a brain would communicate the way we do, but we totally do not understand it right now. They've been doing some research with rats, and they've figured out how to install memories into rats. They've done this with humans to a certain extent, but it's not quite the same way they've been doing it with rats. They've been doing it with rats with electrodes and by actually physically sending them into the brain. Michio Kaku says that in the future, he sees a future, well, that's kind of redundant. In the future, he says that maybe we're going to be able to download stuff, like download piano and download, you want to learn quantum physics? Well, sure, you just download quantum physics. And I don't know, is that going to cost money? Is that going to be, that's just a lot to think about. And there's a lot you guys can talk about in the comments on our website, or wherever, I don't care. Just talk about it in the comments. But there's a lot of interesting things here we can speculate about as far as the future goes. I mean,
one of the fun things to think about is that if you download, like if this is a thing and you download somebody else's knowledge of something, you'll probably get all the imperfections that go with that as well. And so maybe you might want to download math and physics like 4 or 5 or 6 times. One of the when I was studying physics, one of the resources that I had were the Richard Feynman lectures. And it's like the best physics lectures ever. And the guy has a really unique, really interesting way of looking at things that's like, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, I'm going to do some other things. And there are actually specific things in physics in use today that he came up with that when you look at them, it's like, oh, this is actually pretty simple and pretty straightforward. This makes a lot of sense. But when he came up with them, the tools for working on those types of physics problems were very complicated, overly complex, needlessly complex, and he's like, well, why don't we just, start from the beginning and really look at what this might be? And it was so simple, not really simple, but it was so simple that a lot of his peers in physics were like, no, this is impossible, it can't be this simple. And then and he's like, all right, well, let's go through it and see where it's wrong. And it wasn't wrong, and it turns out that's what they use today to figure out that particular kind of problem. So I fear that if we're downloading sort of the gospel textbook knowledge for different subjects, that we'll have a situation where people don't really think outside the box anymore. And Richard Feynman was amazing at doing that.
I mean, hopefully, there's going to be people who are born, every decade, every century, who are special people who do think out of the box, like Richard Feynman, and realize that it is rudimentary after all. But yeah, it does kind of worry me. I mean, we're at a point right now where we've lost part of our mental capacity as far as like in phone numbers, for instance. Like, go ahead and like 15 years ago, just look back 15 years ago, if you were someone who made a lot of phone calls back then, you probably knew 50 or 100 phone numbers right off the top of your head. Now I can't even remember my father's phone number. All I can remember is the motion I need to do. I got to pick up my phone and click a few buttons, and there's my father's phone number. That's all I remember, is the motions to get to where my father's phone number is. So I'm wondering if a future where computers do everything for us, computers tell us what to eat and tell us how to cook and tell us how to drive and help us out with this and let us download stuff into our brain.
I think that
what are we going to use our intelligence for?
I think that we're going to end up with a situation where our consciousness is in our brain, but our short-term memory, our long-term memory, our ability to look up facts and deal with them and all that sort of thing sort of is like a Google prosthesis, because it's pretty much that way now.
Werner Herzog, Happy People. Just go watch it. I'm going to leave it with that. Have you seen Happy People yet?
Yes.
You have, yeah. It's pretty interesting, huh?
I think so. Kind of scary.
Yeah, it is kind of scary. Go watch it. That's freaking cold out there. Anyway, after we talk about all this, I'm going to end with, I'm going to go watch Happy People, and I want to hear from you if you did. All right, let's talk about cell phones. There are so many different cell phones coming out right now, and there's a lot of different platforms. It's not just Android and iOS anymore. We've got Firefox OS, and we also have Ubuntu phones on track for 2014 after all, with several different apps. 50 apps are going to be available at launch, including Evernote, Grooveshark, Wear the Channel, and more. Pardon me.
Also the black phone, but it's from
the black
China.
phone. Oh yeah, where's the black phone? There it is. Yes, the black phone, the super secret black phone to hide all your things with massive amounts of encryption. So it worries you that this is from China?
It worries me that that's from China.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd rather have the Ubuntu phone. Really listen. Okay, the Ubuntu phone will be perfect if they separate the radio and all of the hardware in the computer that has to deal with the radio from the processor and system RAM that actually run the phone. So there needs to be like a serial interface or something for dialing the numbers and dealing with the cellular network, and the operating system and everything else runs on the phone. That is the level of isolation I require to trust that my phone cannot be controlled by my operator.
That'd be nice. So yeah, I'm pretty leery by the black phone as well, and I'm not sure how much I need it. Right now, I'm actually running private internet access on my phone because you can download an Android app for it, and that works just fine. But it only protects me when I'm on the internet, and it really only encrypts my traffic. It doesn't really do anything. I mean, it's not designed to allow you to do terrible, evil things, and that's, if you do those, you're bad anyway. So yeah. Then here we've got Tizen. Now, Tizen, there's an interesting article there on Ars Technica, and someone took an in-depth look at Tizen and said it looks pretty promising. To me, it looks like kind of a mixture of Android and maybe the Windows Phone OS, but
it definitely has that Windows Phone vibe.
Yeah, I don't really know how I feel about Tizen at this point. I mean, Samsung is known to create walled gardens. They've got this walled garden mentality. And what I mean by that is a lot of the major companies out there have this old school mentality where they create a wall and they try to keep you inside this. And that's almost the way every business works. I mean, Google came and they really changed things by saying, no, you guys can go wherever you want, and we'll just make apps that meet you where you are in your own lives and collect all the data from you. But you know what I mean? It's a different type of experience. So I'm worried that Tizen will be more of a walled garden than Android, if that makes sense. I don't know.
I'm worried about Tizen because of Samsung's involvement. Any company that would inflict TouchWiz on the world should never be trusted.
TouchWiz. I mean, it sounds like what it
is.
is.
For your TouchWiz.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like what it is. This is also an interesting statistic while we're on the topic here on Engadget. Wow, I can't believe we use an Engadget article. I guess we haven't done that in a while. Anyway, yeah. We're spending more time surfing the web on our phones than we are on our computers now. And I don't think our audience is probably part of this statistic. I could not say statistic. It's one of those words. You know, if you ever noticed that whenever you mess up on a word, you're like, and you're like, man, I really had a hard time saying leopard. It's always easy when you re-say it.
Impersonation. Something about the chopper. I couldn't quite make it out.
Oh God, there it is. There's that picture. All right, moving right along there. So it's just interesting to know that, in large, we are using our phones more than ever, and it's probably because of the bathroom, right? Everyone's. It's the dysentery, you know. It's all those preservatives, man. That's why.
It really is.
Just never mind. Let's talk about some torrenting stuff here. So, the RIAA, they were chasing people down for downloading music, you know, and they were saying like $150,000 fine. You're gonna, you know, this music, each track is worth up to $150,000, and that they would take people to court and like millions of dollars because they downloaded an album of Snoop Dogg or Beyonce or some other popular artist that they want to protect. Usually not the smaller artists. They don't care about their copyright. What do you make, $500 a year? You play in coffee shops? We don't care about your copyright. So get back in the coffee shop and serve me coffee. Anyway, So anyway, there's another group out here. It's called Rights Corp. The RIA kind of backed off that. They realized, oh, that's not the best idea. So what Rights Corp is doing is they're monitoring, traffic on the internet, and they're really watching the top 100, and they're sending letters to people who download something from the top 100, and the letters go a little bit something like this: you could be liable for up to $150,000 per infringement in civil penalties. However, if you give us $20, we'll give you the rights and we'll leave you alone. So in that statement there, they say that this, song could be worth up to $150,000, but if you give us $20, we'll go away. Doesn't that mean that that's not worth $150,000? That it's more worth $20? What the hell's going on there? That's a bit weird.
That seems very, very unusual.
Yeah. You know what I think's going on? I think they, well, of course they're using it as a scare tactic, but they're also, it's kind of extorting. They're making people scared. Like, hey, listen, if you don't pay this $20, we can take you to court for $150,000, but $20 will make it go away, if you know what I mean. The other interesting thing is they are sending these things out to the different ISPs, and then the ISPs forward them on to whatever IP address is connected to that customer. Like they say, hey, this IP address was downloading John freaking Mayer. No way. Top 100s, let's fry his ass. So they send it to Comcast and all these other companies. Well, Comcast does not forward on the part that says give us $20. They just forward on the warning and say, hey, we caught you downloading some stuff, stop it. You know what I think? I think Comcast wants a cut. They're like, hey man, these are our customers, they're downloading stuff, but why don't you give us like $5 and then we'll forward this on to our customers. We all make a little loot. Let us wet our beaks, they say.
That is exactly what's going to happen. That is. So we can't innovate on our own. We have to make money on other people. That's pretty much the standard issue thing when the economy's in the crapper.
You gotta wet my beak. Is that a mob phrase or what is that? I don't even know. Yeah. Here's another thing. I want to take a second here to just go on a slight rant. And this is sort of a message to all of the legal teams out there at different creative entities like Paramount and Miramax and I don't know, Geffen Records and all the big media companies out there. So this is, I'm going to tie this into this Twitter thing. Someone started a Twitter account. I can't speak. I think it's severe. Someone started a Twitter account and they were tweeting frame by frame the entire movie of Top Gun. So they were putting up pictures and you could watch it. It was kind of cool, whatever. I don't know if it's kind of cool. I think it's kind of silly, but the ridiculous thing is that the Paramount lawyers saw this and they were like, you know what? We're going to tear you down. You were infringing on our copyright, and we don't like it, so stop it, all right? And they took down the entire Twitter account. Well, yes, you were right to do that. But let me give you a different perspective here. Legally, you've got to protect your rights. I understand that. But what if you're actually losing money by doing so? First off, you're paying a bunch of lawyers to litigate legal nonsense like this. They should be fighting, I don't know, like real stuff, like people going into theaters with camcorders and stuff, which I guess they do. But what if somebody saw this on Twitter and, this movie came out in 1986. Not everybody has seen it, especially not the younger generations that were born in the 90s and all that. They haven't seen this movie. What if they saw this and they were like, hey, that looks pretty cool. I'm going to go to Netflix and get that, or I'm going to go to Hulu or wherever the hell it is. I'm going to go to Amazon and I'm going to legally buy a copy and I'm going to watch Top Gun. What if that's what happened? Instead of, do you think anybody actually went to the Twitter account and looked at all these individual frames of the, of the thing and was like, well, I guess I've seen this movie frame by frame on Twitter. The original content is now irrelevant. Do you think that's what happened?
No. Copyright law was not designed for this sort of situation, and I think that's probably the point the person who made the Twitter post was trying to make. In other copyright news, Lawrence Lessig, who's a copyright lawyer at, he's a copyright professor and lawyer at Harvard Law, and he did a lecture on how this kind of thing with things that are part of our culture is sort of a call and response thing. And so you have a song that you really like, and that's sort of the call, and the response is, babies dancing to that song and people doing weird stuff and things like that. And so he had an example in his lecture, and he put his lecture online. He's just completely academic, completely fair use. And he got a takedown notice on YouTube because that's the thing that happens on YouTube. And he's like, no.
From orbit.
He filed a counter notice, and the company was like, no, we're going to take you to court. He's like, all right, bring it on. And they ended up giving him a bunch of money, but it took like 4 years. So if you're Lawrence Lessig, you can ignore those copyright notices on YouTube. Otherwise, You're
Well, you
screwed.
know what? If somebody came at us and they were like, "Hey, listen, we don't like what you're doing," and if we had a legitimate fair use as a media entity to use something, and they said, "No, you can't do this," I would totally go to court with them. It'd be like a "come at me, bro" type thing, you know? Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. What else we got to talk about? Hardware stuff. Oh, this is interesting. And drone cargo ships. This is the third time we've done this video, and I keep forgetting to move this over to the robot stuff. Yeah.
It's a robot cargo. Okay, here's the 5-second version because we're running long. It's like, well, it doesn't really matter. But it's a robot cargo ship that they can just hit a button and it'll go from A to B and everything's cool. However, Terminators on the boat to deal with the pirates. Ta-da!
There it is. Very well. Yes. We can just move right along there. Exactly. Apple has put a patent on a desk-free computer with an intelligent laser-powered projector and wireless charging. Nobody has ever put a projector inside a computer in the history of the world. Never happened. Nobody in the history of the world.
I've seen that before. I'm not sure I saw the inductive charging. It was like inductive charging and a laser keyboard and a projector. I'm not sure I saw that combination of things, but I totally saw a laser projector, video projector combination before this patent.
Well, you know what? Let's just start taking things that exist, okay? Like, let's take a wristwatch on a badger that has a hat on, and let's patent it. No one's ever done that before. Let's patent that. And then the next thing I want to do, oh, you know what? I want a computer in a suitcase that has a car radio antenna on it. A car radio antenna. They've never been done before, I don't think. And if it has, it doesn't have a patent. And let's patent that. Let's just start taking combinations of things. A chair on top of a sofa. Double chair. Chairception, patented. I don't even know anymore. I think I'm drinking too much beer. Let's talk about hardware and stuff like that. This is actually a strange article. DirectX and OpenGL, right around the time Mantle is rolling out, are both saying like, oh, Mantle's coming out. Well, you know, the whole CPU overhead thing. Well, let me add some preface to this. Mantle solves a lot of the problems that DirectX creates, and DirectX creates a problem because it's an API and it's kind of bloated, and it, you know, the goal here is to get to the hardware, and it's an API and it makes things a little bit slower, and there's a lot of overhead for that. Well, Mantle gives you lower level access to the hardware as long as you're running an AMD card. Well, now DirectX and OpenGL, well, Microsoft is saying, we can give you guys lower level access to the hardware, no problem. It's we all of a sudden we just woke up and figured it out. And NVIDIA is saying that they're approaching zero driver overhead in OpenGL. So now everything is almost no driver overhead. Does that mean that Mantle is going to be dead on arrival? I don't know.
For those of you that have never experienced the Microsoft vaporware phenomenon, I am concerned that this may actually be the standard operating procedure of Microsoft during the vaporware administration. So, when the iPad first came out,
vaporware administration?
Yes, this is the Microsoft vaporware administration.
Right.
It's from the Ministry of the Microsoft, whatever. I don't know. It's a memo. Did you get the memo? If you don't believe me, like how bad it can be for Microsoft, just Google Microsoft Courier tablet. So this was a press release that came out pretty much right after the iPad, and Microsoft was like, "Yeah, we've got a tablet too. Check it out." And it was the Courier tablet. And if they released it today, they would sell millions of units. But yeah, it never existed. Did not exist. And so NVIDIA being involved maybe gives it a little bit more credibility. Although I think NVIDIA might have been playing things a little shady lately, maybe with some of the stuff that they come up with. So I'll reserve judgment until I see it, because this has been an architectural problem with DirectX, and I think that their careful use of the word OpenGL there may be sort of obfuscating how easy or difficult it really will be for people to develop with this.
Well, I mean, it's almost two different things. Like Microsoft is saying DirectX is evolving, and then that NVIDIA is saying, well, OpenGL is almost zero driver overhead. So I don't know. If either one of those things is true, it's going to be bad news for Mantle, because Mantle's a relatively new API, and OpenGL and DirectX are something that's been around for a long time. The one nice thing about OpenGL is that OpenGL could be a very viable platform for the future of games, because Steam on Linux, and OpenGL, there's no DirectX on Linux, so OpenGL and Mantle are going to be the thing on Linux. But if OpenGL is approaching zero driver overhead, and we can use that in Linux, then Mantle will be irrelevant. But I'm going to totally not have an opinion on this. I'm just speculating and saying it would be interesting. But until I see something with my own eyes, these eyes right here in my skull noggin thing, then I'm going to reserve any statements. So, yeah. All right. Qualcomm gives birth to two 64-bit Snapdragons, one with 8 cores and one with 4 cores, both with integrated LTE. This is going to be my next phone upgrade. I've decided this looks awesome. My phone is from 1901 or 2, I believe. I forget. I don't know. What phone are you using right now?
I am using a Galaxy S3, which is why my hatred for Samsung burns so bright.
You haven't upgraded like the Galaxy or the Nexus 5, I mean?
Well, no, because Verizon. Thanks, Verizon. Assholes.
Oh, man. I won't even get into my upgrade troubles. I'm with Sprint. They hate me.
Clearly in America, we don't have a problem with incumbents playing games they ought not play. I mean, this is ridiculous. This is like AT&T in the 80s saying that you shouldn't plug an AT&T, anything other than an AT&T phone into an AT&T wall socket and having to rent your phone from AT&T. That it is exactly the same. It is not any different because Verizon doesn't make their own LTE chipsets. They're made by another company.
Don't we already pay different ISPs for like modems that we don't really need? Yeah. We have to rent.
I don't even just.
Let's talk about video games.
I'm dead on the inside. This is Let's go on to video games.
It's midnight. Oh God! This is the third time. This better be good. You guys better enjoy this. If you don't enjoy this, I'm coming to every single person's house, and you guys are gonna get the worst Dutch rub of your house. You're gonna be rubbing salve all over your body for days.
I require more M&M fuel.
All right, you should be watching this Gods Will Be Watching trailer. This is an interesting game coming out here that I think is quite interesting. I've been the Department of Redundancy department this entire episode. Gods Will Be Watching. It's an interesting pixel art game, and it's a click adventure, and it just seems a bit sadistic and mature and quite I don't know, I think it looks pretty awesome, but that looks cool. There's their Indiegogo if you want to help fund it. It's been funded. Oh, it's over. Never mind. Steam. Let's talk about this. The Steam platform is evolving, and this is something we can all really talk about, and I'm going to speculate like wild and say some asinine things and maybe some good things. Well, as it currently stands, developers are being given more control over their own destinies on Steam. They can now create their own sales. So now they don't have to call up, Gabe Newell's personal cell phone and say, hey, can we put one of our items on sale? They can log in and they can drop the prices. This does not affect the main page of Steam. If it did affect the main page of Steam, things would get confusing fast because there would be a lot of sales on games that nobody's ever heard of and no one's really cares about. But I think this is paving the way to a new type of Steam platform that Gabe Newell's been, talking about for a long time. He wants to go to a world that's less curated, and he wants to put the power in the hands of the people that create the games. So here's what I'm saying. Greenlight, he said he wants it to go away, and I think this is the first steps of it going away. Giving developers control and letting them create their own stores where they curate the content and they decide what's for sale. And I foresee a future. I'm going to go ahead and prophesy for just a minute. I foresee a future where if you're a game developer and you have a game, you don't need to go to Greenlight. All you need to do is take your game, make sure it's finished, and then put it on Steam. You'll have your own little platform. You'll set up, your own little store. Maybe even put a header on top of like, "Hey, this is the cool, awesome store." That's what the name of your store is right there. And then you sell your games on there. You can have sales on there, and you can share a link specifically to your store, and then people can go on there and buy it. However, if you want to be included in like the Steam sales, those are still going to happen. And if you want to be included in some specials on the main page, well, you've still got to deal with Valve. But Valve is going to be curating much less, or I guess far fewer things, not much less, far fewer things. So it'll be a different experience, but there'll be, I guess, more content, and the developers will have more control over it. I think it's a good future that I would like to be a part of. What do you think?
This does not sound like a bad thing. This sounds like exactly what it should be. This sounds like a less insane version of Apple's App Store, and so if this platform is available on Windows and the Steam boxes and things like that, he could actually take over the universe and have a lot more stuff. There's actually, I was looking through Steam Greenlight and some of the other stuff, some of the amalgamation of all the new stuff that Steam's doing. There is a lot of really good apps on Steam now that you can buy for like $5 or $10 that are really good apps for PC.
Yeah, a lot of this was total speculation, but it's based upon what's going on in the direction, and it's based upon a lot of the things that Gabe Newell said in his different speeches here and there. So I think this is where they're going, and you know, we can always look back. You know, so far, Wendell, I think we're pretty much 80 for 80 as far as predictions go. Like 1 year out, look back, and then like, hey, we called that. I think we're doing okay as far as that's concerned. Most of it's yours. I feel good that this time it's kind of my prediction, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know enough about what the grand vision is, but I think that Gabe doesn't plan on having a huge staff deal with Steam, and so they want it to sort of be its own thing, which I think is healthy for the community.
Well, I mean, they're still going to make money because they're going to take a cut of everything because they're still the ones who own the platform.
Yeah, they're still going to make money.
Yeah, people know where to go. They need to go to Steam. Anyway, this is also kind of funny. Titanfall is going to require 48 gigabytes of space on the PC. That's all. What the hell do you need 48 gigabytes for? Either there's going to be 30 gigabytes of extremely ridiculous DLC on day one, or there's just no optimization whatsoever on PC. I don't even understand. Is it full motion video content for hours and hours and hours and hours? 48 gigabytes? What the hell could it possibly be? I want an explanation. Somebody.
When I see things like that, it makes me think that the situation is really just it wasn't okay. I don't really know how to explain this, but basically you get in a situation with games where PCs would be okay and they could compress things and arrange things and make it efficient, but it's really just easier for them to have a giant file that contains a ton of stuff that's not especially optimized, because that'll run better on console, because console maybe doesn't have background tasks or whatever. And so this is probably that, if it's not 3/4 DLC that's not, you know, available on day one or whatever.
Last article of the day here. New tax code aims to increase taxes for makers of violent games. Now, as it currently stands, games can qualify for a research and development credit to get a tax break, and that's something that's gone on for a long time, and a lot of different game developers qualify for this and take advantage of it, and they get a bit of a tax break, and it really helps them to create their art. However, now there's some new legislation proposed, and they're promising that what they're going to do is remove those tax breaks from any game that they deem violent. And that seems a bit vague, number one. And number two, I mean, what about all the violent artwork that's out there? Hell, the Bible is pretty damn violent, if you ask me. It's actually an extraordinarily violent book. This seems a bit weird. I'm not sure why they're attacking violent games yet again, other than the fact that they don't understand them. I'm not out here advocating for violence. I'm not really somebody
constitutes violence, though? I mean, Angry Birds could be violent.
Yes. Yes, it could be violent.
They're angry. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to the dark side.
Yes. You know, I was actually reading an article about a day ago. Apparently, kids are going outside and they're creating lures for birds, and they're catching these birds, wadding them up, and then slamming them into glass walls and things to see if they break and see if they can knock pigs off the roof.
It's a real problem in Plano, Texas.
Why Plano? Why do you gotta mess with Plano? Just leave them alone. They're just Plano, Texas.
That's the joke.
Oh, it's very funny, you know. I'm gonna drink the rest of this beer right here on camera. Here it is. That is delicious. I can't believe it's from Massachusetts. I was so fooled. Odin's Triple Ice. I was so fooled by this beer. I thought this beer was from, like, Norway. It's from Belchertown, Mass. This is the end of the video, guys. I don't know why you're still watching. It's pretty much awful. You know, there's about 9 other shows that you guys could probably watch and get more enjoyment than the tech. I mean, we've got the WAN show. We've got Jay Stutens does streaming, and Barnclays does streaming. And then there's Newegg has the Yoked. And they also have Alt-Tab now. They got Yoked and Alt-Tab. Do they really need both of them? I mean,
Yes.
it's weird. Wendell, you know what I say to Alt-Tab? You better Alt-F4 that Alt-Tab.
It's not that bad. It's good. It's fine.
I'm messing with them. They put my face on it like a week or so ago. I got a bunch of tweets, and they're like, hey, look at this. Why is your face here? It's like me scowling. Here, I'll give you guys one for next week.
No.
There, I've just given them like lots of fuel.
It's not good. It's bad. It's bad. But, you know, the new echelons of YouTube with actually pretty good content on YouTube is just the signal that the cable industry is dead and they don't know what to do, and no one gets their content that way anymore anyway, and they're just not relevant.
Yeah, you know something? I believe in the content on YouTube, and I don't think that we are all competing. I think that we're all in this together. And even though a lot of the content may overlap, I don't think people are just going to go to one website. I think people are going to go to, our website. They're going to go to Linus I can't even say that. They're going to go to Linus's website, and they're going to go to Jay's website, and whoever else's website. Jay really needed a website. I wanted to go ahead and mention the fact that I helped out Jay on this. If you guys have noticed, I haven't been streaming much lately. A lot of it's been because I'm in the process of doing a lot of personal things that are outside of work, but I'll be back streaming soon. But also, I spent a couple of my Skyrim/Quake live hours to help out Jay. I saw online he hadn't developed a website in a while, and he was trying to get a website going. So I was like, dude, here's a framework, here's a database, here's some other stuff, here's your template, fill it up with content and have fun. And I was surprised. I logged back on the next day, and he had arranged this nicely and filled it up with content, and I was like, well, good on you, mate.
As it should be.
Yeah, pretty cool. So anyway, that's the end of this episode, and thanks for everyone who's become a tech support member. You guys are helping us out more than you know.
Oh yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, it's very awesome. And then we got other stuff over here on the side. We're adding a bunch of things to the store, and there's actually someone working on the website tomorrow, right?
Yes.
Yes, we are actually working on the website, so
we're working on it quite a bit. Hopefully no one notices. Otherwise, they're going to get a lung full of drywall dust and discarded bits.
Guys, it's your tech support dollars at work, and we're going to be doing some more hiring soon. I've got an editor who comes like once or twice every month. He's been like less than it should be, but I'll get the editor to come more, and we're going to expand more soon. But I want to expand slowly so that it's organic. I don't want to grow too fast and attract trolls, or grow too fast and attract people that truly shouldn't be members of the community. I want to grow at a nice, slow, steady pace, and mostly focus on making the video content better. So I think that's what you guys deserve, and things are going to get better, but it's going to be a slow and steady process, because that's what we've decided to do. Slow and steady wins the race. I hate saying phrases like that.
Yeah, it's really difficult to work on the website while there's people on the website, because the website has an insane amount of traffic 24 hours a day.
It's fun anyway. All right, guys, we will see you next week. All right.
Now, this is the part where something's horribly broken and you message me in 10 minutes and it's like, oh God, what's happening?
Not again. I went to Amazon and I ended up buying... this is what I do when I'm sad. I go to Amazon and I buy sunflower oil. I went on there and I was ordering another capture card to fix this one that's broken, and I just like, let me get some sunflower oil too because I'm sad.
Happiness does run on sunflower oil, so...
I just like sat there. I was like, I need this in my life. Have you ever had one of those? It's like, I don't even know. God, that is strong beer. The Norse know how to do it. I'm drinking Odin's Triple Dark Norse Ale from I guess it's from Norway or Sweden.
Great Odin's Ghost.
It's from Massachusetts. It's like, is this from Norway or Sweden? It's like got this big Norse name on the side of it. No.